Hey everyone! In this video, I'm going to show you how to make these lanterns. To make this glass lantern, you'll need a glass jar and some string. On the center of the base of the jar, I placed a string to measure the amount of string I'll need, making sure I have enough to put pearls through and hang the lantern. I cut out 3 strings of the same length and tied a knot in the very center. I placed the knot at the center, then I applied super glue on the edges of the jar to glue the strings in place. I picked out some pearls, put a pearl through each pair of strings like so, and continued to do this till I reached the rim of the jar. Then I tied all the strings together with a knot, and to set everything in place, I took some more string, wrapped it all around the rim of the jar, and super glued its end to the jar so that it doesn't unravel. This can also be done by tying knots instead of using pearls, like so. For this jar, I used this hexagonal prism-shaped jar and some paper doilies. I first painted these with pink acrylic paint and some liquid glue to make it waterproof. After they dried, I cut it in half and super glued them onto the bottom part of the jar. Then I spray painted these drinking straws in gold and cut and glued them to every edge of the jar. I glued one paper doily at the base as well. Now, using some white string, I made a handle for this lantern. For this, I cut 3 pieces of string of equal lengths, placed half of each string inside the jar, and taped it to the inside of the jar to keep everything in place for the next step. I tied another piece of string around the rim to keep the 3 strings in place. I took off the tape and made sure each of the 3 strings are in equal lengths. Then wrapped the other string around the rim of the jar many times to secure everything in place. You may tie something here, but I decided to leave it as it is and glue the string to the jar. Finally, I tied those strings together with a single knot, and there you go! To make this lantern, you'll need some tissue paper in the color of your choice. Then I measured the amount of paper I need, which is a bit more than what wraps around the jar. I folded the top and bottom part of the paper like so. I made another fold on the side, which will later act as a flap to place glue on. Then I folded the paper twice into 4 equal parts to make the cutting easier. On the first fold I made, I cut some thick rectangular strips using the 4 folds as guidance. Finally, I cut out the remaining pieces. And now it's time to decorate. I added some fringes in the bottom. To give this lantern an autumn look, I decorated it with some colored paper and sequins. After this, I placed some glue on the flap and glued the paper like so, kinda like a cylinder. I took a thin bangle and glued the flaps to it like so. Make sure the size of the bangle is smaller than the rim of the jar, so that it doesn't fall through the jar when placing it over the lantern. For this, I'm using the lantern I made before. I like this so much that I made another one. To make this pumpkin lantern, I made 2 marks on the top and bottom of an orange A4 sized paper. Then I measured the amount of paper I'll need, which is also a little bit more than what wraps around the jar. Then I made a fold on the marks and drew a line near both the folds. Along one of the folds, I made small cuts, making sure not to cut over the line. Then I unfolded the paper and cut along the middle from the previously made cuts till the end of the other line. I wrapped and taped the piece all around the top of the jar. Then I brought the paper down the jar like this. Turn the jar over, give it another twist, kinda like the letter C, and taped the other end of the paper to the jar as well. Similarly, I made this owl lantern. First, I measured the amount of brown paper needed to go halfway around the jar, and then cut out 2 owl faces. 4 eyes from white paper, the body from beige paper, and some fringes for the bottom. I added some decorations. Then I first taped the bottom of the owl on the bottom part of the jar, then the body, just like I did with the pumpkin. Then I added some string to hang the lantern, and finally taped the face on top of the jar. And now, let's light them up. Thank you for watching, and I hope you try these at home. Have fun!